So, welcome to another episode of the Late Late Aesthetics Show with myself, Vanessa Lana Brown, and we're joined by an incredible guest today who's actually based in Sydney, Dr. Jinny. And Dr. Jinny is a celebrity doctor in Australia, the co-founder of ESK Skincare, an author and a mother. So, thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thank you, Vanessa. Thanks so much for having me on.
And it's great. It's 8 a.m. with me, 6 p.m. with you. So we've made this work with the time zone. I think the virtual life is really, really working for us these days.
I know. It's just so cool. Like, I was in London not long ago, and I think our times just didn't match up. But like, how cool is this? Technology, love it.
Perfect. So you've had an incredible career in medicine and the media as well. So can you tell me a little bit more about what kind of inspired you to focus on health, beauty, and wellness? Because you are a GP and you're also a media personality.
So honestly, how long have you got? I did medicine because I got the marks, at school, and I didn't really think too much about it. It was like, if you got really good marks, you did medicine or law. You needed slightly better marks to get into medicine, so that's what I did. But I think that I actually love being a doctor. It's so much fun. But I kind of fell into the media. I kind of got into medicine on all my like English and history marks. I was a super good writer, and so better than science. But I kind of ended up writing columns in magazines, and one of the editors said, you know what, I'm a book scout. So if you ever want to write a book, I'll get it published for you. And I was like, oh my goodness, think of a book. So I wrote this book called Why Am I So Tired, which I think it might have sold like 10 copies. Like, it did not do very well. But one of them ended up on the desk of Women's Health magazine. Like, they were just launching it in Australia. Like, they'd bought the title from the United States, and they like needed a doctor. And like my book was on the top of the pile, and there was a photo of me on it. So they just kind of rang my publisher, got my number, and I was like, a magazine columnist? Hell yeah. I got like 20 pounds a column, but whatever. And, I wasn't going to retire on that. But then by mad coincidence, that magazine house got bought by the biggest TV network in Australia, in free-to-air TV. And so I accidentally then started working for this TV network, and they had this, I still love him, this amazing doctor who would do breakfast TV, and he's amazing. But like, sometimes you didn't want him to talk about the pill or periods or things like that. So they rang Women's Health and go, hey, have you got a spare doctor we could use? So I kind of ended up by accident on TV, and the rest is history. And like, I was on TV troweling on the makeup over my cystic acne, my horrible rosacea, and the worst thing about having horrible skin when you go on TV is that they need makeup basically to be an inch thick to hide all the rubbish underneath it. And then you got to take the makeup off, which is like so painful and awful. And so I was just in this never-ending spiral of horror. And then as I hit my 40s, pigmentation, and I got perimenopausal acne and all the rest of it. So, I became obsessed with skin because I was so vain.
Yeah. Well, skin is the largest organ we have in the body. It's so important to take care of it. And I do think that some people get to a certain age and they've forgotten to take care of their skin like they would take care of any other of their vital organs. So it is incredibly important to take care of that, definitely. You've been such an advocate for aging gracefully and in a controlled manner. So how do you think that the aesthetics industry as a whole can support healthy aging going forward? Whilst, there's a lot of unrealistic expectations in the industry. So how do you think that we can age gracefully as a population?
I think everybody's different, and we need to embrace individuality. And I think that we need to just be more respectful of each other's choices. I can't believe it's like, if there's a pretty face on television or on Facebook or Instagram, all the comments come in going, oh, she uses Botox. I'm like, so what? Like, you do you. If you don't want to use Botox, no worries. But you don't need to go and troll someone who does. Like, I actually think there are some people who are going to be like not interested in taking care of their face. I would say, Vanessa, as you and I, like, because this is our passion, is if you do have a disrupted skin barrier, it's not just a matter of having dry skin and not looking your best. There's actually a lot going on medically. As you said, it's the largest immune system organ in the body, and there's growing evidence that when you have, let's say, autoimmune disease, that in fact the impaired skin barrier can be driving changes in your immune system that contribute to your poor immune system health and autoimmune disease. So it is more than just vanity. But let's say you have a fine skin barrier and you just don't want the fine lines and the wrinkles and the big pores. That's fine. Like that, no one should be shamed for that. And similarly, if somebody goes, I don't care about my wrinkles, fine. Like I don't want to judge them either. I want to empower everyone to say, you make your own choice. Like let's not shame anybody. You don't need to troll somebody about what they do to their own face, right?
Exactly. Each individual is their own, definitely. There's quite a lot of talk actually at the minute about there's a big connection between the gut and the skin health. What are your takes on that?
So when I started as a GP, if I wanted to know what was growing in your gut, there was a broad assumption that hardly anything grew in the gut, right? And that a bladder was sterile, and that breast milk was sterile, and that the lungs were sterile. And if there was anything in it, that was a problem. And that was because we would take a sample of, in the case of guts, they'd take a sample of your poop, stick it on a Petri dish and see what grew, and those circumstances don't really allow much to grow, and often nothing grew. And we say there are no bugs in your guts. Well, now with the advent of mapping the genome, which was actually funded by Obama, and it's like a whole interesting thing, but that allowed us to actually barcode and scan fragments of DNA that allowed us to find viruses, bacteria, fungi, yeasts in every part of the body. And we found out, no, your bladder is not sterile. It's got lots of bugs in there that keep it really healthy. And definitely your guts have trillions of bacteria in there. Like it's 1.1 kilos of bacteria. But we're not deep enough into the weeds yet, because this is such a new science, to know what does a normal gut microbiome look like? And what does a normal skin microbiome look like? And like, just for example, diversity in gut bacteria is a good thing, right? So if you don't have lots of different bugs, if you only have a few bugs in your guts, that's an unhealthy gut. The skin is completely the opposite. Diversity suggests bad outcomes for your skin, and a narrower band of bugs on your skin actually suggests healthier skin, because maybe 96% is of a particular bacteria that helps and nurtures your skin. So we know that there's a connection. We have been studying, for example, the gut microbiome in rosacea. We know that the gut microbiome of someone with rosacea looks very different to the gut microbiome of somebody who does not have rosacea. But what we can't yet tell you is, number one, what should it look like? What does perfect look like? We still don't know. And number two, what should you take to get perfect? Because we don't even know what perfect is anyway. So I think there's been a rush to market of probiotics, symbiotics, prebiotics to get you to a perfect gut microbiome when we are not there yet. I'm a massive fan of studies. All I do is just sit with the National Library of Medicine and geek out over studies and purchase full text of every study. I promise you, if we find out what perfect is, I will be communicating it from the rafters, but we don't know yet. And so if you're taking something to help your gut microbiome, to help your skin microbiome, that's not grounded in science. That's grounded in bullshit. And sorry, I've got a foul mouth because I'm Australian. So that's just the way it is. But
I'm Northern English, like it's similar. So I think because everybody is talking about this gut microbiome at the moment, and there's so many skincare brands coming onto that bandwagon of plastering it on their products, saying, "Look, this will improve your gut health," blah blah blah. So it's a little bit of a tricky one, and I think that's what happens with skincare is we're misbranded and we're missold with so much information out there. So tell us a little bit about ESK Skincare, which obviously you're heavily passionate about.
So, I said to you that I had the combination of TV lights, thick makeup, and crap skin. So it's not a good combination, just going to be right out there with that. And so what we found was that I would do a segment on TV on what really works in anti-aging skincare. And then I would literally just get bowled over by the number of emails going, yeah, but what brand should I be using? Because I'd be going, you need a minimum 10% L-ascorbic acid in a water and oil emulsion. You need to make sure that the pH is under 3. And people were going, yeah, but I don't know what the pH of my product is. Like, what should I buy? And so I went trawling through pharmacies and department stores and online, and I could not find anything. Here's the studies. We know what works. Here's the evidence. They're not even close. Like, what is going on here? And I realized that because there is self-regulation in skincare, it's not a very well-regulated area. There's a lot of like a bit of an honesty system. And so people will go, if you need 10% L-ascorbic acid, I will use ascorbyl tetraisopropanate and I will use it at 5% and we'll just call it vitamin C and that'll do because it's cheaper and it doesn't go off and my L-ascorbic acid's too difficult. But that's like saying, stop signs save lives. So I'm going to put an upside down give way sign at the other end of the road and hope that saves a life. Like it's kind of tangentially the same because there's a sign, but like it doesn't really, there's no evidence there. So it's like, it's quite problematic. And I've found that within skincare, there has been a lot of use of pseudoscience, a lot of growth factors and, stem cells and things like that. Collagen is just like a buzzword. It's chucked everywhere. And the science behind it is a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
Having said all of which, I think we can dismiss people who use our skincare as being too dumb to understand this, and that is wrong. They're smart. They get it. They know the difference between dodgy science and things start to smell a bit funny. And these things that might be selling fortunes, collagen powders, let's say for now, they're going to have their day. They're going to be out at the door because as people start to go, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense.
What are your views then on, sorry to interrupt, but what are your views on drinking collagen to make sure you're reducing fine lines, wrinkles? What's your views on collagen supplements or collagen drinks?
So I'm going to give you a bit of a complex answer, so stay with me. I don't entirely disregard them. And I think that there's probably some sound science behind it. The way your gut is designed to work is you eat some food or you drink a drink, and the first thing it hits is the acid bath of your stomach to smash the bad bugs in there and protect your guts from food poisoning. And then you're going to go to the first part of the small intestine where all of your food is just going to be hit by these enzymes to break every bit of food into its smallest component. Why? Because in the second part of the small intestine, it will be absorbed into the bloodstream. But you can't absorb an entire protein. All collagen, whether it comes from a cow or a mollusk, or whether somebody's, got a bacteria to grow bovine collagen, so they call it vegan collagen, but it's not really. They all have 19 amino acids. The most a healthy gut can absorb is a tripeptide, so 3 amino acids. So it has to smash up the collagen. Then it goes into the general pool of amino acids with your eggs and with your steak and with your milk. And your genes, which are not cow genes and are not mollusk genes, so it can't form bovine collagen and it can't form mollusk collagen or bacterial collagen. It can form human collagen according to your genetic recipe. It will fetch from the pool of amino acids that you have absorbed and form collagen. And in the same ways you can't spot reduce fat off your stomach, you can't put collagen into the skin of your face and not into your bones and into your muscles. Wind back, because then you just go, well, why would you bother having a collagen? Because in the same way that you can't eat a steak and put a steak on your face, it doesn't start growing there because your body can't grow into a steak. It doesn't have the recipe to turn your amino acids into a steak. It also can't grow collagen, bovine collagen. Why do I think it is so effective? I take diet histories from women all the time in my practice. And what I've found is that women don't love protein. So if you go out for dinner with a mixed group of men and women, you will see the men pick the beef out of the beef stir fry and leave all the noodles, and the women will be all over the noodles and the rice, and we're good on veggies. But you like carbs.
We do. We need them because they manage our hormone levels. We need them.
They do. We need them. But what we know is that to maintain your hair, skin, nails, bones, women need 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. An egg has 6 grams. So if you have an egg for breakfast and you're 60 kilos, which is, let's face it, not too many of us anymore, then you are really behind the 8 ball. And we know that you should also be dividing up your protein into 3 meals a day. So ideally having 20 to 25 grams of protein. And as you pass through into menopause, there's growing evidence that that number needs to increase from 1 to even 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. So I suspect what is happening with women who take collagen drinks is that they're finally getting sufficient protein. I think that's what's going on.
Okay.
And so I think if you want to do that,
Yeah.
that's totally fine. But I would say there are more nutrients in a steak or in a chicken, or if you're vegetarian, in some tofu and some nuts. Because remember that gut microbiome, it loves real food, and it's not a big fan of highly processed anything, whether that's a supplement or whether that's, a cheese and bickies from the gas station.
Yeah.
It's all highly ultra processed stuff that is not feeding the bugs in your gut. So I would rather you go for whole food. But if you absolutely can't, go for a collagen powder. That's fine. I just prefer you not pay £70 a month for it.
Yeah, this is true. How much does the food that we eat impact our skin? Because there's talk out there that, for example, sugars can age us a lot quicker. If we have alcohol in our diet, that can obviously age us a lot quicker. So how important is the quality of food that we have reflecting on, let's say, our skin health, our hormone levels? How important is that?
So it doesn't impact hormone levels at all. In terms of your skin health, I think we've all seen somebody who looked like 10 tons of shit and then they give up drinking and they look 10 years younger and you're like, wow, okay, so clearly, but they were clearly drinking a lot, right? And I think for your diet to be so bad, and it's the same with hydration, in order for your dehydration to show up on your face, it needs to be so bad. Like you need to be running a marathon in the Nevada desert, right? For most of us who have 1.8 litres of fluid a day instead of 2.1 litres of fluid a day, which we should be doing on top of our food, you're kind of okay, right? So it has to be pretty bad to show up. What we know is that there are some diets where there is some evidence. For example, there's some evidence that dairy, and particularly low-fat dairy, can contribute to acne. There is some evidence that people with rosacea and psoriasis need to have more vegetables, need to have more whole foods. And don't forget, if you've got psoriasis or rosacea, you're at a higher risk because of the genes that are involved in those conditions for high blood pressure, heart disease, dementia, diabetes, all the biggest killers of women in the UK. So it's really important to actually be doubling down on your health if you have one of those autoimmune skin conditions. But on top of that, we have very limited evidence around aging, pigmentation, fine lines, wrinkles from the inside out. And I know everybody loves to talk about the inside out, but the studies to back that up are just not there at this point. I'm a doctor. If I told you not to eat healthy, I should hang my head in shame, right? Of course I'm going to tell you to eat healthy. Of course I'm going to tell you to have broccoli.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can have Macca's and pizza with a side of multivitamins and think you're going to be okay. Just put the multivitamins in with your ultra-processed food. That's where it belongs. That's the food group that belongs in.
Absolutely. I think, throughout life, we go through many different hormonal changes, specifically as women, and men do as well. We go through so many different hormonal changes from like puberty right through to menopause. How is there an impact on how our hormones change and how does that reflect on the skin?
So much. Like it's mind-boggling when you realize that almost every cell within your skin has an estrogen receptor on it. Like we're talking about everything from your melanocytes that make your pigmentation to your fibroblasts that make your collagen and your elastin to your keratinocytes. Like literally every cell in your skin, the blood vessels that supply your skin have estrogen receptors on it. So this is reasonably new information. So here's what we know. I'm going to take menopause as the test case because that's the one that we know the most. As you see as your estrogen declines, and what we see with androgens, your male hormones, I'm saying male with bunny ears on there because it's women and men have testosterone. Women just have it at much lower levels, but it's made in our ovaries, the way it's made in testes in men.
Yeah.
It peaks, testosterone kind of peaks at 30 and then it levels out and it stays about the same till 50, 55, and it's a very, very, very slow dwindling off. And then it ticks up again in your 70s, which is weird, which is, I think, why a lot of ladies grow a beard. But anyway, that's your androgens, it's much more sudden in menopause. Like you have very high levels of estrogen throughout your life, albeit up and down like a yo-yo because you're going through your regular cycle. And then it falls off a cliff as you go through menopause. And your skin and your brain and your vagina and everything else does not like that very much. So what estrogen does in your skin is mind-blowing. The first thing is it's anti-inflammatory. And by the way, androgens are pro-inflammatory in your skin. So if you think about that imbalance because your androgens decline much more slowly and much later, you will see 1 in 4 women actually get a breakout of acne around their perimenopause. 1 in 4. A lot of these women have not had acne since they're in their mid-20s. That's a lot. Yeah. The second thing, because it's anti-inflammatory, is you'll see often a lot of eczema or dermatitis, things that you had in your childhood come back as you go through menopause. 70% of women will experience skin sensitivity around that time. And so the skincare that always worked a treat for them all of a sudden is like itching, burning, drying their skin out. They can't handle it. They come to you, Vanessa, and go, "What have you done to my skin? I came to you for Botox and now I can't even wear my sunscreen." It's not you, it's your hormones, but this is one of the things, so the anti-inflammatory. The second thing is, if you think about the skin barrier as a brick and mortar structure where the bricks are your dead skin cells and the mortar is a combination of proteins and fats that bond everything together and it keeps bad stuff out. We're talking about toxins in the environment, but also bacteria, fungi, and it keeps good stuff in your water. All of the stuff in the mortar is made under the influence of estrogen. So you will lose your skin barrier. That is why you get so dry. It feels overnight. Women are so itchy and so dry. They don't look good. Dry skin does not look great. So that is the second thing that's happening. But the other thing that's happening is your estrogen switches on your fibroblasts to make collagen. And it switches off this important enzyme called matrix metalloproteinase 1, MMP1. MMP1 breaks down collagen. It's like a Pac-Man that goes through gobbling up collagen under the influence of the sun's UV rays or any inflammation. Anything that inflames your skin will let loose MMP. And normally, estrogen keeps MMP1 on a noose. It says, "Come on, get lost. Yeah. Down with you, boy." Now, no estrogen, it goes wild. So not only are you not producing your collagen, but it's getting broken down. So the result is that women will lose 30% of their collagen in the first 5 years after menopause and an additional 2.1% after that. We also see more diversity in the skin microbiome and a drift up of the pH. So the normal pH of a skin in a premenopausal woman sits between 4.5 and 5.3. So quite acidic. Your skin is quite acidic. It remains acidic after menopause, but it drifts up to 6 to 6.3. And that higher pH, again, further damages your skin barrier, further contributes to dryness and irritation. So all of those things together cause quite a lot of chaos in the skin around menopause. But there are also, and this does my head in, you will find that of all the girls and women who have acne, 75 to 80% say that it gets worse before their period when estrogen is at its lowest. And that again is around impaired skin barrier. And on top of that, girls who have eczema and dermatitis, any inflammatory skin condition, again, 70% will say that it gets worse before their period. That is your low estrogen. So what impact does hormones have? The whole box and dice. Like it is mind-blowing.
Yeah. And then this must have been a contributing factor, you obviously knowing this information to develop the ESK skincare line. So tell us more about ESK skincare. How does it work? How does it differ from other products that are out there? Because there's so many products out there. I think as a consumer, it's confusing what to use. So tell us, how does it differ?
So I think that there are 3 things that make it different. So the first thing, so our remit is to do everything based on evidence in peer-reviewed medical journals. So not I gave it to 16 of my friends and they all told me it was fantastic. Not I'm ESK, so I've got the ESK Institute and I'm never going to show you the secret sauce or how I made the sausage of that study result. They have to be independent peer-reviewed trials before we will use a formulation or an ingredient. So I'm going to say that the 3 things that are different are, number 1, it's more effective than any other skincare brand. And I would say that, except that we do have a no questions asked money back guarantee to absolutely anybody. So if you buy ESK from a skin clinic and you go, didn't work, or I don't like it, or I had a breakout on it, or I had, dry skin on it, this clinic will fully refund you. We don't want anybody to be unhappy. We have had less than 5 returns in the UK. But we'll stand by it. If anybody has sitting here watching it and says, I've got an ESK product and I didn't like it, return it. We will give you your money back. We'll stand behind it. The second thing is, I think, the price point, which I think is very, very, very compelling, possibly because we're Australian and the pound is so strong against the Australian dollar, but it is just a really compelling price point. It's much lower than 99.9% of brands that you can buy through a clinic. And I would say the last thing that is really, I guess, the most important is that we are really into gentle skincare. So I think there's this old school idea that unless your skin burns and sizzles when you put a cosmeceutical on, there's nothing active in your skincare. And that's a very old school idea. We know that any burning or discomfort or redness in your face is inflammation, and that is damaging your skin barrier, and actually pro-aging increases acne, increases pigmentation. We don't like that. But what we now know is that there are a number of ingredients, key ingredients like retinaldehyde instead of retinol, 4-butyrosonol instead of hydroquinone, far more effective tyrosinase inhibitor when it comes to pigmentation, polyhydroxy acids instead of alpha hydroxy acids. We use gentle ingredients to achieve a better result, so more efficacy and yet gentler. And the other thing is we work with in terms of our formulation, we exclude any what are called excipients, so preservatives, bulking agents, scents. We don't use any smells at all that would cause irritation. So that lack of irritation, yet the high efficacy and a great price point, I think that's what sets us apart.
Oh, fantastic.
Plus, we're very transparent. So we declare the pH of every single skincare ingredient because we're really obsessed with the microbiome and the skin pH. So we have downloaded about 300 studies on skin pH. That's why I know exactly where to aim. And we've got a lot of studies now that show that if your skincare has a high pH, it can actually see pH drift in your skin and impair your skin barrier. So what I've always say to people is, if you're using a skincare product, check out what the pH is. Oh, what's that? They don't tell you. Reach out to them and ask you. Guess them still not going to tell you because they probably don't know, or maybe they're hiding something. But there's not a lot of transparency in the industry. So I need to sleep at night. So I need to be ethical, and integrity is so important to me. I would not. I can't look anybody in the eye and tell them bullshit. It's just not my thing.
Well, exactly. You're a doctor. Your core value is to help people at the end of the day. So developing a skincare line, which is actually going to make changes in somebody's skin, which ultimately will affect their confidence levels. It'll affect the way they feel about themselves, how they look, etc., etc. So it's so, so important. What's like your one key bit of advice that you would give to someone who's dealing with hormone-related skin issues such as like acne or rosacea? What's your number one bit of advice?
So even though the hormones are playing an enormous role, there is no evidence that a hormone-specific skincare range should be used for hormonal skin of any kind. Having said all of that, if you notice that your skin is responding to lower estrogen, whether it's premenstrual or after the menopause, then it is critical that you don't use things that burn and sizzle on your skin. Gentleness and preserving your skin barrier, keeping that intact, keeping this important immune system organ, not hyping up your immune system, but keeping things nice and calm, is not just about not having a red, irritated, aging face, but also around your well-being. So use effective and yet gentle skincare because you don't need to burn your face to get great results with your skin.
Exactly. You've also authored actually multiple books, but the two that actually spring to mind to me is The M Word and The New Teenage. What kind of inspired you to want to write those books, and what's the key takeaways that readers can get from them two books?
So I think the latest one is the rewrite of the M word. So it came out in 2020, and then by 2023, I was like, oh my goodness, so much has changed in the menopause world. I need to rewrite this. So I rewrote it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a one-stop shop where I think what I like to be is not judgmental on people. I think a lot of doctors can sound like they're finger wagging and, unless you eat your 5 vegetables and go for a run every day and, you have to sleep well, which is really cruel to tell that to someone who's going through menopause and can't sleep. I like to think of my books as a bit of a all-you-can-eat buffet table where you can choose what you want. My job is I trust you. I think women are super smart, and I'll walk with you. I'll give you the information, and I'll support you whatever you want to do. But the good information is key in a way that's relatable and that makes you go, that totally makes sense. So my job, I think, whenever I write a book, and I'm writing another one at the moment, is to walk with you, give you good information. I'll spend the time reading the studies. You don't have to do that, but don't think you need to do everything. It's too much. It's too stressful. Take what you can, do what you can, let it fit in with your life, and don't feel guilty for the things. None of us do it all. I promise you. If I can tell you how much wine I drank yesterday, it was like embarrassing. But like none of us are perfect, and no one is saying that perfection is all the only acceptable way. It's a buffet.
Exactly. And if someone, let's say, wanted to purchase your books to read them, can they get them on Amazon? What's the best way, like in the UK, for someone to gain access to the books?
Yeah, Amazon, or you can head to the ESK website because they're there as well. So yeah, I've got one on brain health, preventing dementia. Hint, hint, it all starts in midlife.
Yeah.
Bit too late when you turn 70 to try and prevent dementia then. It's like a bit too much brain damage. But yes, all the books are available with all the skincare.
Even with like Parkinson's, the studies actually that are coming out now, which I'm sure you're aware of, that shows that NAD, if you take that as a supplement, that can help to reverse Parkinson's at its early stages. I mean, it's very, very new research that's coming out, but I think, this is the great thing about our industry, because it's constantly developing. There's new research coming out all the time, so it's interesting.
I'm always interested in new research. For me, a research in a rat is interesting. I don't know that we can necessarily extrapolate it into humans, and we need large, unsponsored, so not industry-sponsored, independent peer-reviewed trials before I'm going to go, yep, I'm all on board. So in terms of an NAD supplement, I don't take one. I don't think there's enough evidence for it for anything. And believe me, I'm like the most vain person. I'll do everything for my skin, but I'm only going to do things that have got evidence, because I'm concerned that we don't have enough independent, high-level, peer-reviewed trials. But I'm watching them. They're all in my spreadsheet. I'm sitting hours every day looking at the studies.
I think companies don't do it because it costs so much money. So that's the biggest reason. I think that they can spend their money on the marketing. They can get a good celebrity endorsement for it. And that's a lot easier to get to market than it is to spend millions of dollars researching something, getting the clinical trials out there. So, and this is the big misleading part of the industry.
Plus, doctors apply a very steep discount to industry-sponsored trials. So if I'm iPad and if I'm Mr. iPad and I want to find out whether iPads save lives, we know that if iPad, funds a trial, the trial will be positive and show that iPads do save lives because you pay for results, right?
Yeah.
There will be no clinical trial companies if you pay $100,000 and get a negative trial. So studies have shown that when you get an industry sponsor or any skincare brand to run a clinical trial, it will show benefits from that skincare product. That's why we need independent, peer-reviewed trials, not just sponsored trials. If there are 1,000 different trials all done by different universities at different times, and they're all sponsored, then I think we can say that, we're applying a 90% discount, but that's still a big number. We're still looking at really strong evidence. But that's the kind of numbers we're going to need. And no company has enough money to give you 1 million trials, right? So I think the first thing that I do when I look at a clinical trial that is published on the National Library of Medicine is I scroll down to see who sponsored it. Now, once I can see if because there's a conflict of interest statement on every study, if there is a conflict of interest, it's not that I won't read the study, but I'm now applying a very steep discount to the findings.
Yeah.
I'm more conservative. I like clean science.
Well, that's amazing. And with ESK skincare, where can people in the UK purchase ESK skincare?
So a lot of clinics around the UK, so ask your clinic if they stock it, but if not, we do sell it online. So it's ESK Care, so Evidence Skin Care, so eskcare.com, and you can find it all there, and including a lot of free ebooks about hormones and skin, pigmentation, acne, rosacea, all sorts of teenage skin, menopause skin, all sorts of things are on there. So, and they're all free, plus a lot of blogs. And when we write something, we've got click-throughs to every independent peer-reviewed journal article, so you can check out why we've said what we've said and why we've done things the way we have.
Yep, fantastic. And anyone who visits our clinic, VL Aesthetics, keep an eye out because we'll definitely be introducing something new very, very soon. So please keep an eye out. And you'll probably get your hands on it very, very fast. Just to kind of round everything up, you've been such a great guest, so informative. Looking ahead at the future, where do you see the industry moving? Where do you think that where's the future of the medical aesthetics industry?
So I think that, like everybody, I'm really fascinated around the devices. And I think that the concept of when devices first came out, the idea was that you would create a skin injury and the skin's response to being injured would be to have lots of fibroblasts going overboard, trying to have a lot of healing properties, including a lot of extra collagen. So the idea would be we'd give you a tiny little injury by laser, by needling, by whatever it is. But often they caused quite a lot of damage to the skin and there was post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. That meant that they couldn't be used by people with skin of color, which is quite a big part of the UK population. And the new devices is really threading this needle so tightly where the injury is almost imperceptible. It's not going to cause the same degree of damage, but it is going to cause an increase activity in your fibroblasts. So I think watch this space, because I think for anybody who's been scared of doing, if people with robust skin can do anything, but as people with sensitive skin or people with skin of color just can't do a lot of the lasers and peels and things like that, it's coming. So I think that that's really exciting. And there's more, I think there is a lot more independent science that is happening now. Particularly there's a lot of interest around pigmentation, a lot of interest around skin of color. I think, Vanessa, 5 years ago when we talked about rosacea, we talked about it being a European skin issue. And it was only recently that we found out that it happens just as much in skin of color. It's just that women were told, I can't see any redness, so you can't have rosacea, get nicked, see you later, and was sort of dismissed. And now I think there's this recognition that it just presents differently and we need to be more less homogenous when we're doing our research and be more inclusive and have a bigger group of people in there. So that's another area. And then I think there will be where I'm really interested in the role of estrogen on the face and how we can best deliver estrogen directly to the skin so that we can help with pigmentation, with repairing the skin barrier, with collagen, but in a way that's safe and effective as well. We are not there yet, and we don't have an effective estrogen-like compound to go on the face yet, but I can see it coming.
Yeah, this is the great thing about this industry. It's so fast-paced. The study's been, done constantly all the time. And so it's a matter of time, really.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this sort of thing, like, you've only been doing this podcast for such a short amount of time, and look at the number of downloads you've had. It just tells me that skintellectuals are everywhere, that we have, as an industry, treated women not with disdain, but we haven't been positive enough and informative enough. And people are coming to people like you to say, give me the information. I want to make my decisions for myself. These women are smart and they get it, and we just need to grow with them instead of trying to just sell stuff to them. let them make the decision for themselves. And I'm so excited for your podcast because that's exactly what you're doing, is to help just deliver information and then say, hey, you do you, and we'll support you.
Exactly. That's the whole point of the podcast. It's to deliver qualified information from leaders in their field, because there's so much information out there, you just don't know what to do with it. So if you can get it from the experts in the industry, you've got a much better chance at getting something that's going to work for you and it's going to deliver results.
Absolutely. And the great thing is, particularly with skincare, is you can reverse course. Like if you don't like it, go and try something. It's totally fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. And any listeners that want to contact Dr. Ginny, her contact details her Instagram will be in the little bio, so you can contact her, ask her any questions. She's often on TV presenting as well. And she has some really great content out there, real informative content. So thank you so much for joining me. And any comments or questions, please put them in the comment section below. And stay tuned for obviously some more episodes, some more updates about what's new in the industry, what's happening. And have a great day, Dr. Well, sorry, great night. It's more like me, like still before 9 a.m. for me. You enjoy your evening and get some wine.
And so to see you in the UK next year.
100%. Yeah, we'll see each other when you come over February, you said.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So great to chat to you. Loved learning more about everything. And let's stay in contact, definitely. Thank you.